Hi, everybody. Welcome to Ed the Pagan Show. As you know, we've been interviewing great people. And David Moore is a good friend of mine. I've known him for many, many, many years. He does a lot of traveling. He works really super hard. Recently, he talked at the Pagan World Congress as well as the peace thing about the idea of love and his path. But I'm going to introduce him. Hi, David. Welcome.
Hi.
Um, so we have you here. Uh, a little bit. So let's talk to people about a little bit about your pagan past and how you got onto it. I would love to find out more.
Sure. I had things in common and things quite different from maybe your average pagan when it comes to that story. One thing in common is I started out from a place related to Christianity. I know that's not uncommon, but the uncommon part was that I was acting as Christian clergy at a very young age. So I was more deeply involved in study at a younger age than the average person. That makes me my past very different. You see, I was engaging in spoken language in English very well long before I was 1 year old. I remember by a particular time when I was 9 months old on my mother's hip, and we were leaving someone's house, and I said, "Thank you for your hospitality." And the woman was also a mother. She had a kid my age, and she was just kind of shocked. And she said, "Can you say goo goo to her son?" And I was like, "Oh, geez, maybe I spoke out of turn." But language came earlier than normal for me, and written language too. As soon as I could sit up, my mom was showing me flashcards and teaching me to read. So as I was learning to speak, I was learning what those words looked like. And as a result, I joined a ministry school when I was only 5 years old. That gave me a different sort of past, in Christianity. I wasn't a pew sitter. I wasn't somebody who was being preached at. I wasn't somebody who was being judged and pushed around by dogma. It was a different environment altogether, a very academic one. And we were constantly studying. And I mean, this is something I was steeped in from long before 9 months of age. I grew up with this surrounding me all the time, Bible study and religious discussions and things like that. So, I joined a ministry school when I was 5. I'd already been literate for some time before that. And by the time I was 6, I was researching, preparing, and giving little talks to audiences all over the United States, wherever we lived from then on. It started out in California, then it was Washington State, then Georgia. So that part's unusual. And the thing is, it took a long time and a lot of study and a lot of preaching and teaching and asking questions and answering questions for me to realize my questions weren't getting answered satisfactorily. You know, it was after almost 20 years of intense study and academic home environment and preaching, related work and things like that, that I found I had a lot of very serious reservations about the religion I was raised in. And they weren't, I think my questions weren't ignorant ones. I think they were based on knowledge. I think those questions were solidly founded and genuinely hard to answer. And after all these years of growing up, my whole childhood, growing up steeped in study and in practice, I found that the religion I was deeply involved with was wrong for me. And that was hard.
I can imagine that was hard. I don't have dissimilar experiences, but it is definitely a difficult thing when you find out the cultural religion, and in your case, an intense, an intense experience because you didn't have just identity, you had status. I mean, you weren't, like you said, a pew sitter, but you had actually status within the church. You were actually doing things to further this, to bring this more into the world, and to find yourself without um, grounding. And then, but where did you go from there? So you came to this moment where you just were not part of this anymore, even though you may have been acting such.
Right. And I mean, I was really skillful in debates with Catholic priests and Baptist ministers alike. But the problem is, we were discussing the finer points of Christianity. We were discussing biblical history and accurate translation. We were discussing the nuances of a religion that, as a whole, wasn't right for me anyway. So I felt like I'd wasted so much of my life in that and had a truly existential crisis of religion at that time. And for a little bit, I was just really depressed about it. But, I just couldn't any longer in good conscience render service to a God that thought it was okay to punish children for the sins of their fathers and mothers. I wasn't okay with a God that claimed responsibility for wiping the earth out and saving just a few humans and animals. That was horrible to me. And I couldn't put faith in a jealous God that promised to destroy the world yet again. It was all terrible. And I didn't care about the finer points of, biblical teachings. At that point, I just felt like the whole thing at its core was pretty rotten. I needed
I
to
th
find the true nature of the divine. And I knew I was looking in the wrong place so far. So
you know,
yeah, I mean, and I kind of just set out on this search to find something else.
I think a lot of people can relate. I think a lot of the younger people are hearing this because they feel that too. I mean, and now it's a kind of becoming with a lot of the evangelical movement moving to be more and more public. A lot of people are very uncomfortable with it. A lot of people who are within it. So that's very good advice to them. Can now you begin to move on? Can you go ahead
I
and please
did.
continue?
And as I was not exactly rebelling, but feeling like I couldn't possibly participate in the religion I was raised in anymore, and that it was wrong, that it was false. The first thing I ended up reading, I was drawn to see what someone would say from a very opposite perspective, and I read Anton LaVey's work. I read the Satanic Bible, the Satanic Witch, and all I found was a disturbed anti-Christian who was playing opposite world due to his disillusionment and playing it up really big in the public's eye because he came from a circus background. And I wasn't impressed with LaVey, and I didn't buy his message, and I didn't like his methods, so that didn't resonate with me at all. I look, I knew I was in the wrong. I had the wrong faith growing up for me, but I wasn't. I wasn't bitter, and I wasn't rebelling, so I didn't vibe with where he was coming from. I was looking for something better, something that felt like truth instead of like just a way to bash them. I didn't want to do that. They had a lot of good qualities, but it wasn't for me. So the next thing I went to was
So,
Buddhism. Uh huh.
so let me ask you. So let me go ahead and talk about Buddhism, and then I'll bring my question up.
Okay. Uh, well, brother, the next thing I found was Buddhism, and it was introduced to me by my first Kung Fu teacher. Another thing I was not allowed to do when I was a little kid, but always wanted to. So, I was going to do my thing and live my life as an adult. I found a Buddhist teacher, and he started teaching me Buddhism. I mean, we were crawling around on the ground in the Georgia red clay trying to find little white grains of sand because he said we had to go outside and find white grains of sand to put in my first little incense holder, and told me later it'll be replaced with ash. But at first, you begin with sand, and this is the tradition he was taught. He's helped me set up a Buddhist altar, and it had a male representation on the right and a female on the left, believe it or not. And it had a
Hmm.
representation of a representative of Buddha in the middle. It wasn't really the Buddha, it was Hotai, the fat bald guy that you see sometimes. He's not really Buddha, but he's supposed to have been enlightened, and he was basically the guy who brought Buddhism to China and really popularized it there. But anyway, I didn't know that. So here it was more of a Buddhist ancestor altar, but Chinese oriented on purpose using that particular icon. And he taught me to use 3 sticks of incense when I prayed and to set them in this little incense holder. And he taught me a series of practices. But all in all, after doing lots of study on the subject and reading all about Siddhartha Gautama and his adventures, and reading books like by Tibetan Buddhists like the Dalai Lama, which I really enjoyed, I appreciated the many schools of thought among Buddhists, but I found that I still didn't fit perfectly with all their teachings either. I resonated with the love, peace, and compassion very much, but I couldn't believe in reincarnation or pacifism, and the Hindu roots didn't really ring true for me, and I just couldn't feel it running through my veins. I hadn't found myself yet. So I kept looking. And I
So,
ended up finding British traditional witchcraft next. And wow. I mean, I was wowed. It was exciting and it intrigued me. I was at a girlfriend's house and I just was looking through the books on her bookshelf. And I found this little pamphlet that said The Charge of the Goddess. And I said, "What's this?" So I opened it and read it in full before she returned to the room, and I had questions. Where did you get this? Are there people that are doing this? I want to meet them. I want to know about this. And she introduced me to a group that she was going to and taking classes from a third degree Wiccan high priestess. And I started taking those classes too. And they accepted me in their fold. And I ended up with my first initiation under that high priestess. And from there, man, I never looked back. But still, the teachings of witchcraft haven't all completely fit with me, and I haven't been able to accept them all. So, but I tell you, I had the most amazing religious experience all of a sudden. The first time in my life, so many things were just real and actually happening right in front of me. Powerful spiritual things. I could
Hmm.
see the Lord and Lady. You know, I could see the circle when it was built around us. I could see the elementals moving around. I was always very visual with my psychic faculties. I was clairvoyant, but not as clairaudient. I didn't really hear things so much. I would see. And
Oh, sure.
anyway, so here I was looking around and I was seeing this circle. I was seeing the elementals. I was seeing the watchtowers set up. I was seeing when they were invoked, the Lord and Lady coming, and they looked huge and glowy to me, and they were beautiful, and they were kind of walking around with us, but they were giant. How they appeared to me was giant. And then when they did the drawing down the priestess into the priestess and priest, I saw them go and choose to stand in the place where they were and kind of inhabit their body. And it was amazing to see all that. I'd never seen anything like that before in my life. And when I met my Lord and Lady and felt all the love and acceptance, and it just felt like coming home, it's stuck with me and it changed my life. So even though as a religion, that particular religion still didn't work for me later, I mean, I never left behind the care for my Lord and Lady, and I felt that I wanted to be in their service and be connected with them for all of my life. It's like I found my real parents, and it was a big deal.
So that's a very powerful story. I love that. And I think there is a difference between the religion of all of it, witchcraft, Wicca, magic, paganism, all of these have a religion. And I think that is for the world. But what you're talking about is the spiritual experience. And that's where you found your home in. It sounds like you didn't find your home in the religious aspects, but more of the spiritual and the actual work.
Well, yeah, I spent my life growing up, my whole childhood praying and never feeling like I got answers to my prayers. And now all of a sudden, after this experience with these Wiccans, I felt an answer was almost always there for my prayers. It was a 180-degree turnaround spiritually from my
Hmm.
experiences from then on. All of a
Hmm.
sudden, things were actually happening. There was actual connection that was tangible. What a difference!
I can imagine it is. And now you're in this, you've done a lot of things. You've traveled a lot of places. You know a lot of people. I know that you just help editing a book that's become out there in the world. Uh,
I have edited several books for
yeah.
authors. One of them was for Lady Rhea, who's often been called the Witch Queen of New York, and she's one of the most
Hmm.
lovely, you know or don't you? She's been one of the most lovely high priestesses. She's one of my two very favorites that I've ever known, and she's a great teacher. Well, anyway, she wrote a couple of books, but I got the opportunity to edit the second big one that was re-released with an expanded, revised version, and I edited that for her. It was called The Enchanted Formulary, and prior to that, she published The Enchanted Candle, which is a really specialized set of skills that she kind of invented at the Magical Child in New York. So it's awesome that she chose to share her designs and ideas with people in that book. But the one that I edited was full of formulas for oils that you can mix different essence oils and
Hmm.
perfumes and things and for different purposes. And it was just any occasion you can imagine. It's the great encyclopedia of recipes. It also includes a wonderful background and history of essential oils throughout the ages used by humans for different reasons. And it's just very, very well done. It's an extremely, it belongs on everybody's shelf, I think. It's a great reference book. And then I got a chance to edit one for Alexander Cabot that we published at first in one version, its initial version in England with a very small publisher. And we've done a revised, expanded version and published it through a really huge publisher. They have Red Feather, which publishes lots and lots of tarot decks
Hmm.
you're probably familiar with. That's only one of their imprints. The larger company is Schiffer Publishing, and Pete Schiffer was very, very kind to me and negotiated a good contract. I got to negotiate on behalf of the author, and we found him a really good deal. And this new advanced, I mean, this new revised and expanded version being published in America is amazing, and it's out already. It came out in October, so it's
The name,
available.
the name of that?
The name of the book is of the second version. We changed the name a little per the publisher's request. It's now just called Memoirs of a High Priest by Alexander Cabot.
And
The
actually,
original
if you,
one, yeah, the original one's not available anymore, but this one's better anyway. It's gorgeous. It's hardcover. It's amazing. It's full of great photos, and it tells the story of his spiritual life, which is unlike any I've ever known. He was involved with and initiated in and trained in so many different traditions. It's amazing.
and it certainly is. It's an interesting book. And if you get a hold of the first one, save it. It's going to be worth something as well.
That's
Uh,
true.
it is true. I mean, I'm a book collector, so and I think that our books have a lot of value to them, even beyond just the knowledge part. I think that they are generational wealth, and I think we treat them far too loosely. And, as a bookseller, I learned that. Hmm?
You know what, Ed? I'm
Yeah,
telling everybody right now, I'm going to send you an autographed copy of this latest one from Alexander Cabot. And it's going to have his autograph and mine because I wrote a couple of chapters as part of
you
my
did.
as part of the effort as a content editor. Yeah, I did. So it's all in his voice. It's his work. It's his life. It's all his. But yes, I did a little ghostwriting along with editing, and I'm really proud of my work. And I'll sign my name on the credits page, and
That's very kind.
he's going to
And
have his stamp on it and his signature.
people, if you don't know he has a ghostwriter, we'll talk about here. I also have Chris Copeland out there who does a lot of ghostwriting, who's helped people with books. There's nothing wrong with having a good editor, and even if they do some of the ghostwriting, as long as they keep your words intact. Uh,
Exactly. I was very respectful. It's his story. And if I say I wrote, that doesn't mean he didn't dictate or he didn't tell
oh
his
no.
story. He absolutely is telling his story. And I'm just really proud of the fact that he allowed me to help to shape this into what it is.
Hmm.
But I'm not by any means stealing any of his thunder. He absolutely is presenting his story there in the book.
And that's why I'm mentioning it to other people who do get stuck trying to write a book, that they
Right.
should go out and get help. I mean, because too many good ideas. I believe in progress over perfection. I think too many people worry about how people will react to their books, and they won't get the help. And you're showing us,
Hey, brother, we have other examples. You know, Oberon Zell has published quite a few books in his recent years. One of them was called Goodbye, Jesus, I've Gone Home to Mother, and it kind of shares a whole
hmm
lot of stories in it that were written by people that submitted those stories. It's edited by him, and he has like the first part is from him, but he didn't have to write the entire thing, and he wasn't ashamed of that. There's no shame in that at all. It's fine when there's a collaborative effort, when a team works together. And almost everybody who's been in the craft for a while and has a good library knows about the secret teachings of all ages, right? By Manly
hmm
B. Hall. It's by his team. He even says that his team was working on it in the first parts of the older versions. I don't know if it's still in the newer printings, but he says that he had a big team working on it. He had a lot of resources, and he was very influential, early Rosicrucian, and you know his books were a collaborative effort. He had teams, and he wasn't ashamed to say so. So I think you're right, and I would also
hmm
urge anyone who has a story to tell to find someone to help you tell it if you feel like you need the help.
I agree. One of the biggest things I think is happening in our community is that becoming a high priestess, a high priest, almost requires you to write a book, like a PhD thesis. Um, there seems to be more and more of that desire to have that competency. And it's easier and easier to do. Let's be honest. We've never had a time that we've not been great, have not been great at getting things published. There's even a ways to get it. So if you only sell a few copies, you can get it out. It's not about the sales. It's about the story. I think I'm really grateful that you brought that out. So you've been doing all this. So what's next? Hmm?
Well, I just finished editing a book that's not on a pagan topic, so I won't dwell on it. But it's on it's a historical fiction on the origin of karate for a dear friend of mine, Colin Lee in Australia. And but not only does the writing and the editing continue for me, even though I'm heading into probably less than a year or right at a year more of doing electrical work during the day. That's been my career. But I'm getting close to a medical retirement that I'm going to do by the time I'm 55. So that's coming soon. And what will go forward, what happens with my ministry is I've been an ordained minister since 1994. And the religion I claim is just simply love, even though I have my pagan ways. I mean, behind me, you probably can't see it, but there's an altar, and on it is quite a mix. I
Hmm.
actually have a representation that was made by a Babalawo of a shoe, an African Orisha from Western Nigeria, because I have a relationship with a shoe, and also more recently cultivated one with um, another Orisha. So I'm just I'm very diverse, but even though I have a lot of pagan practice that I participate in, including if I can, I like to join full moon rites, espits, and sabbats with witches, and I feel right at home. But my ministry is love. I try to sow the seeds of love everywhere I go with everyone, and I like when I can find common ground with people, no matter their religion, because we agree that love is the most important practice and focus. So that's what I focus on. And there are books that will be coming out with my name as the author. I have a lot of progress on one that I promised the public some time ago called Banishing the Shadows. And also, I have maybe 33%, around a third of the book written on a book called My Religion is Love. So, I'm going to continue my work as an editor, as a writer, even after being medically retired. And every now and then I'll travel and just see somebody because I consider them extended family, like you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's going to be very good. So yeah, and I expect to have you back on at the Pagan Show, where I've dedicated 365 days to this, and also 1,000 interviews. And here is another one. I think this is
Wow.
very important. I do. And if you haven't seen it, go back into the Pagan World Congress, go on Corellian TV and look up my path. Pagan is my path, love is my religion. Both at the conferences, they were both there, and they're very interesting. So check that out. So one last thing, David, is there anything that you want from the community to help you, or is there anything that you're looking for?
If anyone else
Hmm.
really resonates with what I'm saying about my religion actually boiling down to love, and maybe wants to know more or wants to offer me advice. Maybe they want to share how they go about their ministry, or they want to ask me a little about how I managed to go about mine in detail. I'm always available to be contacted through Facebook at facebook.com/Croden, which is my craft name I'm most known by. Also, I can be reached at David underscore more 31 at yahoo.com. And I'm always there for my extended family. So feel free.
There you go. Well, thank you for being on, and I appreciate you sharing this, and I hope to hear more uh, soon. And
Thank you for
thank you.
having me, big brother. I appreciate it.
Oh, and I hope the audience finds pleasure. Please feel free to contact me. Let me know about this or any interviews and what you want to talk about.